all of a sudden we were performing and we didn't even have a name yet. We literally had to fight over what we were going to call ourselves. We were fighting over our name in the parking lot at Santa Barbara, I think Santa Barbara College or something. Paula Abdul, before Paula was Paula, she was, you know, head cheerleader for the Lakers. And we had gotten to know her real well just through dance. And she hired us to come out. Michael Olmstead, who ran the 69ers, halftime for 69ers Entertainment, he was also doing the USA cheerleading camps, like 500 screaming cheerleaders. The four of us guys are in the parking lot and we're arguing over what to call ourselves because we didn't have a name yet. It was so crazy. So we're going back and forth. And I can't even remember what name we decided on, but it wasn't LA City Rockers yet. So we went in to this cheerleading camp. We didn't know what to expect because all the girls were already inside. We went to this huge gymnasium and there was so many cheerleaders. And like an idiot, I brought my girlfriend. So, but anyway, so we performed that night. We clicked really, really hard. And we just went on from there. And then we were just going back and forth with names. We were solid poppers, solid lockers, and breaking was just coming in. So we were learning how to do that. We got pretty decent about it. But because we were good at all three and our routines were put together very well, that's why we stood out. And Renee was really good at floating. Jazzy was really good at the crazy floor work. Anthony was just a hard hitter, super super clean dancing. And I was the token white guy.
The thing about the LA City Rockers is I was their component. I was for the fact that they came from the second, and this is hard to explain, the second generation of the way the dance spread. And the first generation, of course, was the Lockers with Tony Basil. Then came Sugar Foot Lockers or Foot Lockers, but they still locked. They believed in the locking frozen position, which is a nice hit, a point. Everything was on. I can't say it was on the downbeat because it's syncopated. The downbeat could be the downbeat. The downbeat could be the upbeat. It doesn't matter. It's the way the music goes. So I am super confrontational. I will argue with anybody if I feel that I'm right. And I used to argue with him. I used to argue with Shabadoo. I used to argue. But the thing is, there's a progression where dance evolves. And you have to accept that. Now, I know there's a pure form, but as it grew from the Valley, which was chain reaction, but they were gymnasts too. I mean, Tom Sanchez was a fucking flying gymnast, okay? He used to do side gainers. And TC Diamond used to be in the chain reaction. He's God. He used to do side gainers in the middle of a number. So basically, I was trying to explain that it could evolve. And so then when I got into this opportunity with the LA City Rockers to become one of the crew, I already popped because I had done the Playboy Club and Steve created a number called, the number was Digital Display, and I played a robot in black light. That
digital display. Digital display.
I think it was.
I saw it.
Was a lie because I was in black light. I had a costume that had boobies that were cages or something. They were but they glowed, and they thought it was a guy. But you can't really, and I've got the video on my YouTube in I'll tell you about it. I have a playlist that I pulled up from these numbers, but I popped. But who taught me how to do that number is I would have Bruno come over after we'd go out at clubs, and Bruno would come and help me pop from behind. He would get
pop and tackle,
and he would put his arms on my elbows, and he would make me, pop and click and pop and click. So when I did the number in blacklight, not every joint was accented. So it was a great number. So I already popped. I already locked because I was from Dancing Machine, which is the group that spawned Foot Lockers and Splash in Vegas for 10 years. But I was one of the original Dance Machine dancers, which is girl street dancer. And I locked, I popped, and I did something called whacking, which is from the gay clubs. It's punking. I don't call it punking. I call it whacking. It's also pictures. It's just like a freestyle, whatever. You could call it jazz, interpretive jazz, but it's just freestyle dancing with, and you freeze into pictures, hinges, this. So when Terry said that they needed a girl to do the breaking thing, I knew all those guys because we always went to the clubs. But as far as I was concerned, I thought that your choreography or Renee's or whoever contributed to the LA City Rockers choreography was so much of a wonderful progression.
Me, Jazzy, Renee, and Anthony were dancing with Puma for quite a while. We went to all the sporting shows, all the thing. But then all of a sudden things slowed down for a quick sec. Breaking was starting to die out a little tiny bit. And then all of a sudden, Renee ended up kind of dropping out of the group. And we're going to segue into why. And when he dropped out, not to say it takes two girls to fill his shoes, but Renee's no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's a tough act to follow.
Good stuff, Terry. Good stuff.
And what I did was I brought two girls in. I had worked with two girls before in my first group, Dance Connection. We literally changed the name to Aftershock. It was Tracy and Adrian. We called them Salt and Pepper. Long before Salt and Pepper. This was early 80s. So anyway, moving forward, I took an opportunity to make us a group of 5 because that's way better staging, and put two girls in the group. And then I repackaged the LA City Rockers, sent it to Puma. I sent it right to Ted Bertrand, who was the president of Puma at the time, because he loved us. And all of a sudden, I got a phone call, and Ted Bertrand said he likes what you guys are doing. He wants to bring you back into the show. So we ended up lasting another, I think it was 2 years as the Puma Street Force.
I just fell into dance in high school, and it, like, we were all very fortunate. I'll speak for Terry and myself. We were doing something for the love of it. And then the sort of fad phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, came over. We were already in the right place at the right time. You know, we were just doing it for the love. My trajectory was going to be filmmaking. My father's a cinematographer, and then I fell in love with popping and locking, and much to my dad's chagrin. And he would tell me, where are you going to go with that? You look like a clown. Because, you know, we, like the kids today, we dress different than everyone else. You know, we would, the freaking huge pleated pants, all the kind of stuff my dad, being old school Mexican, saw as like street gang, right? It's like, oh, you're being a pachuco now. And I was like, no, we're not. We're just dancing. He goes, and what's with that haircut? You know, the mullet before it was called the mullet, you know. Anyways,
it was the Prince mullet.
The Prince mullet, totally.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And so I, you know, we just happened, in my opinion, we were at the right place at the right time. Like most of life, there's luck, the planets line up. And so for us, I'll tell you guys a quick little story that does kind of go in the direction Terry was talking about. I remember Terry called me and he said, hey, Paula Abdul called me and wants to know if we want to meet Michael Jackson. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me, right? This is Michael Jackson. You're a dancer. I don't mean to be sacrilegious or offensive, but that's like Jesus Christ calling you to his throne, right? And so I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this. So I went and talked to my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, we're supposed to do a commercial the next day for a Camaro commercial at Raleigh Studios. And I was supposed to assist my dad. And I said, hey, you got to get someone to cover for me. And my dad looked at me like, you've lost your fucking mind, right? And I said, wait, hold on. Let me tell you why. Michael Jackson invited our group to his house.
Wow.
And my dad says, I don't care who invited you. That's not the way I brought you up. You're not going. And I wasn't brought up to say, well, suck it, Dad. I'm gonna go, right? That's just not how I was brought up. So I listened to my dad, and there I am the next day in Raleigh Studios, a dark stage, a freaking Camaro that's not moving. And it's the worst day of my life. It literally is the worst day of my life. Like, I cannot believe my boys. I'm looking at my watch going, they're meeting Michael Jackson right now. You know what I mean? And so
Renee, can I put a little context in this?
yeah,
When I was managing the Ozone, there was a girl named Melanie Andrews who was a really good friend of Jazzy's, Tony and Melanie Andrews. And they would come to the studio. Now, Melanie was a singer trying to make it in the business. I became really good friends with them, and I actually had Melanie perform at the club. Well, she was really good friends with Janet from the school they went to, and she brought Janet to the club a couple of times. And both times Janet came, Renee was there, and Melanie told me afterwards, yeah, but who's that other guy? Who's that other guy? She was, we weren't, I don't even think we were we may have been the LA City Rockers already. I don't know. It's rough to say. I don't think we were. But she was telling me that Janet had a crush on that guy. She was talking about Renee. And the next time she came, the same thing happened. She said, yeah, she really likes that guy, Renee. I want to say, I don't even think I told Renee that.
you
So
didn't.
that's weird because later, when we were getting ready to go to the house, that's when I told him that. I said, bro, you know, Janet has a crush on you. But I don't even think they met. I met Janet, but Renee hadn't. Um, so we, with the day we went to the house, Janet actually thought Renee was going to be there because at this point now, this was a couple of years later, we were the LA City Rockers. And Janet came home with Melanie. Now, Melanie was the girl on the album, the one who says, I know he used to do nice things for you, but what has he done for you lately? Right before, what has he done for you lately? So that was
Yeah.
Melanie. She was on that record. So, and that record hadn't happened yet. Yeah, it hadn't happened yet. So both Janet and Melanie walked in, and Janet was expecting to see Renee. So, and he wasn't there that day. We were literally at the house there to see Michael, and we were there for like, like 2.5, 3 hours or something. We were just hanging out. He took us around and showed us the whole house and everything. But that's the part Renee missed.
Like I said, I could hide my own Easter eggs because whatever you say, I kind of got to go, okay, all right, that's what happened. But so worst day of my life, I'm sitting there thinking, God, I can't believe blah blah blah. I missed out on Michael Jackson. My dad's actual remark to me was, if it's meant to happen, you'll get a chance to meet him. And I'm like, you don't understand, bro. This is Michael Jackson, right? So I missed. To me, it was the worst day of my life. And then the next day, I get a call from Tony, who you're talking about, Terry. I get a call the next day from Tony, Melanie's brother, who
Right.
Melanie was close to Janet. And he said, hey, Janet said you didn't get a chance to meet Michael, but would you be interested in meeting her as like a consolation prize? And I'm like, almost, this is before cell phones. And this was before cell phones, and I was
This
like,
is before Control and this is before the Control
Rhythm
album.
Nation, before all of that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Right.
And so almost as fast as I hung up, I got in my little Volkswagen Rabbit to fucking to traverse the valley to get to the mansion. And I remember, driving up, and back then there were always like at least 100 fans outside of the mansion, and I'm in my little Rabbit, like, excuse me, watch your back, coming through, blah blah blah. And so they let me in. I meet Janet. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. You got to keep in mind, a kid from the valley, from Panorama City, is in a first time ever in a mansion. And so about an hour went by, and I was, not to get all like psychological, but I didn't feel that I deserved to be there. And the last thing I wanted her was for Janet to say, hey, you've been here quite a while. Why don't
Yeah.
you skedaddle, right? And
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
said, hey, I wanted to be the first, and I said, hey, it was nice meeting you. I should get going. She's like, no, no, no. Let me show you the llama. So now we're like looking at their zoo, whatever. And then after about another hour, I said I should get going, and she's like, no, no, let me show you where Michael keeps his glove and all his awards and like this little museum they had there. And so again, after a bit, I said, listen, I really should get going. Don't teach me some dance moves. So anyways, it kept going and going, and we're in her
Breadcrumbing.
backyard. We're in her backyard, and she goes, oh my God. Now keep in mind, you guys, she's 16 years old. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
like,
Yeah.
what am I, 18 or 19? And she goes, oh my God, my dad is home. He's going to kill us both. And Joe Jackson and Joe Jackson had quite the reputation of being a really super mean guy, right?
Yeah.
And I go, what do we
Yeah.
do? What do we do? And she goes, just hide in here in the bushes. So I'm literally hiding in the bushes, you guys, and she's peeking her head out, looking through one window that could see the front door. And she goes, don't move, don't move. She goes, okay, get in your car and take off. So I get in my car and I take off. And so, you know, that I ended up just feeling like, well, that was fun. That was incredible. And honestly, it was like, that was already, I felt like, okay, I could die now. That was quite a fucking experience, right?
Yeah.
In case there's people watching this, you know, you got to continue, Renee. You got to tell the rest of it.
So,
Yeah.
so next thing, so that was it for me at that point. And then Terry, Jazzy, Anthony, and myself were going to nightclubs every night, right? Every night we're going to nightclubs. We'd go back to my house, we'd pick up noggles, fries, and a burrito, and then we would play cards. We would play poker for no money, or we would play, we'd make up
Scrabble.
games. And then
Scrabble.
now
Uno.
Janet, at this point, she's in Europe doing a promo tour for the Control album, and then it would be like 4 a.m, and my home line would ring, and it was her, and I talked to her for a while, and then I'd come back, play, and then that happened a few times, and these guys were like, "Dude, she likes you, bro," and I'm like, "Come on, like I'm skinny Mexican living in Panama City. Why would she?" And they're all the crew, the rockers just would say to me, dude, she likes you. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. So one night she just called and I walked out, went into the bedroom, was talking to her, and that's when she confessed that she, had feelings for me. And so I've never really told this in a public forum. Now that I think about it, I'll probably get sued. And so anyways, she said, I think I'm falling in love with you. And I stayed really quiet. I didn't know how to respond. And she says, what about you? And I said, I think I feel the same. And then she didn't say anything. Then I panicked and I said, no, I mean, that was back then, not today, not right now. I haven't fallen in love anymore. It was so stupid, you guys. It was right out of a film. So anyways, cutting to the chase, we ended up dating, and then she invited me to go to Minneapolis with her, and I told her I have an idea for a song. We ended up doing it, and that turned into...
Bro, you skipped over Dancing with LaToya in Mexico.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Hide them Easter eggs, boy.
No, bro, can I tell you something? Look, if I tell the whole story, we'll be here forever. But yes, there's two things. I danced twice with LaToya. I would love to forget those because I was so bad. That's another thing I need to say, you guys. In terms of the rockers, these guys were definitely more prepared, had a better work ethic. I was just going along for the ride. So anyways, her and I ended up dating. We ended up becoming creative partners. But before all that was my very first thought for Rhythm Nation was, I don't know anybody better in dance than Terry, Jazzy, and Anthony, right? And so,
Yeah.
so for me, it was the most natural of things to do, to say, you guys got to come over, and that just fucking, for four guys who just danced out of love, the planets
Yeah.
lined up, and next thing you know, we're all collaborating with her, and it was one of those things where, um, where is he? I'm gonna say it anyways. Terry's so influential. Terry's so influential that my chauffeur and his boy stole his chair routine. It just so happens that AJ from the Backstreet Boys happens to be a really good friend of mine, and so I picked him up from the airport. And what's that?
Chauffeur.
He's my chauffeur, 100%. And then, so he said, I need to stop in Beverly Hills. So he's not in the car right now. He's picking up something right now. But seriously, the Backstreet Boys stole your chair routine. I remember that.
Well, first off, it was
Mm,
Fatima. It was Fatima's choreography, and she took some ideas. They didn't steal the whole piece of choreography, but they took some ideas.
Okay, I'm going to say they
mhm.
stole. But anyways, we ended up going on this giant sleigh ride, all of us. You know what I mean? It's like, Paula Abdul, like, she was the choreographer at the Laker girls, so she would call us once in a while and say, do you want to do halftime show at the Lakers? So it was just one random thing after the other, and I don't regret any of it. I just think it's awesome. I do regret that I can't remember as much stuff as you guys do. Like, I'm like, what?
Can I explain why?
Look at,
Because
wait, there he is.
honestly, you've had such big moments. You've had
There he
such.
is. He stole, Terry. There
Go,
he is.
AJ.
Look at the guns, baby.
I'm 24,
Fuck, it's right.
23. I'm still living at home. At my house, I'm living in what would be an addition to the house. Normally, you'd walk right out to the backyard. We had built a big den, and my bedroom was all the way at the end of it. So anyway, the phone rings twice. My grandma answers it. She opens the sliding glass door and says, "Terry, telephone." So I pick up the phone and I go, "Hello," and there's a voice, and it goes, "Is this Terry?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "This is Michael Jackson." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, this is Michael Jackson." And I hung up. About 5 minutes later, the phone rings again. And I'm not going to answer it because then I'll have to get up. So rang,
Grandma
sliding
gets
glass
it.
door opens up. My grandma says, "Terry, telephone." So I pick up the phone and I went, "Hello." I'm a little frustrated because whoever just tried to call me and act stupid, I wasn't in the mood. So I answer the phone again and I'm like, "Hello." All of a sudden, the voice on the phone. Now, if you've ever heard Michael laugh, you know what that sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
All of a sudden, he's laughing and he goes, "Terry, don't hang up." And the way he said it, I all of a sudden went and I got goosebumps. It was
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah,
And all
yeah.
of a sudden, I just froze. And I'm like, "Hello?"
Yeah.
And what he said was, "Terry, don't hang up. This is Michael Jackson." And all of a sudden, I just
You
froze. I
sound
just
just
froze.
like him.
And I absolutely froze. And then all of a sudden, he was laughing, and I went, "Hello?" And he goes, "Yeah, so listen, uh, I was watching some street dance videos at the house, and my brother Jackie walked in, and now all of a sudden it starts to make sense." Like Renee said, Paula had the LA City Rockers perform
Yeah.
halftime at the Lakers probably 3 or 4 times. And
Yeah.
3 of those times, we would walk over and we would talk to Jackie after the performance because he was always courtside. And
Right.
so all of a sudden, fast forward, Michael Jackson's watching some videos of us and some other dancers um, on different shows. And so Jackie walked in. So Michael's telling me this. He says, so Jackie walked in the room and he said, hey, I know those guys. And I said, no, you don't. So he picked up the phone, got your phone number from Paula, and then gave it to me. So I called you. And I'm still sitting here going, okay, like I don't know what to say. So then all of a sudden, Jackie gets on the phone and he's laughing and he goes, hey, Terry, something, something, something. Yeah, man, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, the next thing, we got off the phone and he was saying some stuff. He didn't say anything about coming over. About 10 minutes later, Paula calls me and says, so, and she's laughing and she says, so blah, blah, blah. She tells me exactly what had just happened to give me clarity. And because my head is still spinning. And she says, so Michael wants you guys to come to the house. He wants to meet you guys. She didn't tell me it was an audition. She simply said he wants to meet you guys. So her and I would argue about this later because she never said audition. So I tell Renee, I tell the guys, hey, you guys, you're not going to believe this. I swear to God, I'm not messing with you. We are going over. And the only reason they knew it was true was because as soon as I dropped Paula's name and I said, Paula hooked it up through Jackie, and now it all culminated, right? So all of a sudden I say, we're going over there. This is the day we're going. And I tell this to Renee. Renee hits me the very next day and says, bro, I'm not going to be able to go. I don't think he's joking with me. He's got to be joking. And he literally did not go. I thought even the next day after he said he wasn't going to go, I thought he's going to wake up in the morning, he's going to come to his senses, and he's going to come with us. He did not go. It was just me, Jazzy, and Anthony that day. And what makes the story so interesting is that 2 days later, he was back over there with Janet hanging out anyway. It's just a crazy, crazy world. It's just crazy. And then, of course,
I was going to just say the moral of the story is listen to your parents, because I didn't get to go meet Michael Jackson, and then he became my brother-in-law. It's just the craziest thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, real talk.
But if I had been listening to my parents, I probably never would have been dancing. So
The Hot Club in the Valley, right there on Ventura Boulevard. And wherever you were in your story, when you were telling it, it was coming back to me going, yeah, that's where I learned how to lock. And it was because I was going by myself because some guy dumped me. So I was miserable. So I was going out by myself. And I saw you guys. And Jazzy was like super like, I don't know, whatever he did, it was vibrational. And I was like, you know what? Can you please teach me how to dance, how to lock? And he was like, oh. We're in the middle of the club. People are like, walking around. He's like not right now, kid, like that. And I was like, please. So he was like, brush me off again. So I was like, okay, forget it. So I sat back and I watched you guys every night. And then I went home and I practiced in the mirror every night. I would go home after being all like cigarettes in the air and all that stuff. And I would like practice in the mirror till I got the moves right. And then I came back one day. And I think I didn't show you guys anything yet. It was because that guy had left me. He dumped me for some other girl and they were there that night. And I saw them over there standing in the circle because the circle was going on. And I was so heated that I jumped in the circle and I started dancing my butt off. And I started doing all the locking moves Jazzy showed me. Nobody's seen it before. And I just started busting the moves like I was in the mirror at home, just busting. And everybody was going, woo, look at that girl, And then I looked up and they were walking out and I was like, go on, get out of here, But and then I realized what I was doing because everybody was patting me on the back going, look, that was awesome. Girl, you could really move. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't really notice because I was pissed. So that was my motivation to get out into the circle. And that's why, I think Jazzy came back up to me later and was like, you know what? All right, I'll show you some stuff. And then he did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then gave me a break. And I practiced that until my eyes turned blue. You know what I'm saying? I kept practicing and practicing, and I finally got it. And then also I have to say, along with the Fred Berry head, Fred Berry showed me that head, when I was learning. And I developed my style after Jazzy, and then I got in the group. Terry said it was okay. Flashdance had just came out. Remember that, guys? Flashdance was out. It's huge.
Changed the world.
Time I got into the group right then, but I couldn't do the floor work or break or spin on my head, or anything like that. But it worked.
Wait, you're skipping over some important things because
what?
you Flame Cat and
Constance.
Constance, thank you. Good Lord, how do I forget her name? Constance,
okay.
you guys were in a group and you took the name Friction. And that's
Yep.
and where I remember you guys the most wasn't from Le Hot Club because you guys weren't there as a group. I remember you as a group over at what was it? The Whiskey?
Rhythm Lounge. Right?
Rhythm Lounge.
Yeah, no, it was Rhythm Lounge, but it was Whiskey. There was a few clubs that
Whiskey
we were
Go-Go?
all going to.
What was that club that was underneath the Beverly Center in Beverly Hills that we used to
Voila.
do?
Right
That
there.
one.
Voila.
That one. We used to do stuff there.
Voila. That was
Voila.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they
After
let
hours.
you do.
Voila. I remember
They let you do
that
group
club,
dance.
boy.
Yeah.
They pay you like
Yeah.
$25 or something.
Flame,
No,
Boogie was telling me a great story about you battling Anna Sanchez, Lollipop. So
I
did you
Yeah.
guys used to go head at head like that back in the day a lot?
I never battled Anna. Where were you, baby? You must have been like 18.
We were
What?
at the Rhythm Lounge. Ice-T was performing, and you said, "I've had enough." And you go over there, but like, "Flame, don't." You were like, I had enough of this woman." You guys actually battled. You went off on her, and she was like, "Oh shoot, here we go. I
Maybe
got to
I
bring
was
it."
in a mood. I might have been in
It
a
was
mood.
magical.
But we
It was
were really
magical.
good friends. I have to say, me and Anna became
Yeah.
really good friends, but she lived
Yeah.
in a different part of the valley, and I was Hollywood girl. I was a Hollywood girl.
Yeah.
So I
Right,
hardly
right,
ever
right.
saw her unless we went down to Long Beach or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I would battle. I don't know if you guys know who Dallas is, but
Yes.
I came
Wow.
from the circuit on that side of the freeway. We didn't do very much circuit dancing in the valley because we came from like maybe give it 5 to 10 years before. Well, when Chain Reaction was just coming together as a group, there were contests at every club in every town in Los Angeles, and you would plan. You're going to go to Long Beach on Tuesday. You're going to go here on Wednesday. If you made enough money, and I lived in a van. If you made enough money, you would get a hotel and get a shower. If you didn't, then I'd use my friend's PX card at the Army base in El Segundo, and I'll go to the ladies' locker room and get cleaned up. But I lived the circuit before I got into Dance Machine, and that was, I think, 80 and 79 and 80. But we would compete, and everybody was in those competitions. There was what was Trish and Tangerine.
Tangerine.
Trish and Tangerine, kick-ass popper. Tangerine was a kick-ass popper, and Trish was the partner for Patrick from England.
Yeah.
They went on Star Search together, Patrick and Trish.
Patrick Allen.
They used to compete together. When Trish and Tangerine were in a group, I had no chance with a guy. There was no chance with what we call them duets and bookends. Bookends were two of the same sets. But when you did solo work, then you were out. And Dallas was always my foil. I was never worried about Anna because Anna was a locker. And she didn't she whacked. I did everything. Floor. I would do an aerial if I had to, if I thought that would make me win. I would fall on the ground and do splits in a circle. I don't care. I would do tricks. But Anna, I don't remember battling Anna, but maybe was I locking? Was I locking or whacking?
You were whacking, and it was so magical to me because you were both awesome, and I was like, "Whoa, it's so heated," and it only lasted a few minutes.
2025 video talk about LA City Rockers. There's a video there with me, kind of touch dancing with Camelot Jr. Okay, we're not locking at all. We're like touch dancing. And Tony had us do all these weird dances. And there's one of me, Constance, and Anna. And all we had to do was be in each other's face and fall down a lot and touch each other. And the video was very weird, but Tony wanted some weird shit because she was casting for the David Bowie Glass Spider tour.
Oh, yeah, the Glass Spider tour.
Yeah, the Glass Spider tour. He was looking for dancers, and he was in New York, and she was going to fly to New York. Tony Basil was going to fly to New York and give her all these films that she did of everybody. Skeeter was in a couple films. We did one film. Everybody had to wear black and white, and everybody had to wear lace. Another one, like I said, me and Camelot Jr. He's just standing there like this with his cap on, like yours, Stu, just like his cap on. He looks like a locker. And I'm in a tutu. And I'm dancing around him with a ponytail and a tutu. I look like a Barbie doll. And I'm walking around him, and then I pull him off stage. All these little vignettes Tony wanted to show David in his leisure so that he could
Mhm.
pick his crew for going on
Yeah.
tour with Glass Spider. And he ended up taking, did he take Constance? He took Constance.
Constance. Yeah,
He
she
took
choreographed
Spaz.
Black Fire.
He took Spaz, who was a white
Yeah.
ginger guy who dyed his hair. He was very white. He's whiter than me. He dyed his hair like white blonde, and he would do
the
a
flip.
front flip, hit the ground, and spaz. And that was his thing. He could front flip from a dead stop and then spaz out like he had an epileptic seizure to the music. He was on me. I'm serious.
Yeah.
He was in the tour. Then there was Lonnie. No, not Lonnie Anderson. The other whacker from the gay clubs that is always the punker guy. Manuel. His last name was. Anyways, the thing is that I didn't get cast, so I was her. She ended up using me as an assistant for the choreography for the tour. I was her assistant for like 2 years in different functions, but
Wow.
it was all under the table. Nobody knew. If she was doing the Tonight Show, I would go and block the whole number for Mickey, of course, because that's what she would be asked to do. And I would stage it, light it, and then I would go in the green room for the rest of the filming, and then she'd come out and do it. So I was her like schlepper. I schlepped. I didn't like schlepping. I liked being in the limelight. I didn't like being somebody else's schlepp. So it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people through her, but
it's impossible to talk about the LA City Rockers without talking about Tony.
Right.
Renee came home from the Rhythm Lounge one night. One night I didn't go. It was just Renee. And he came home and he said, "Bro, I met Tony tonight, Tony Basil. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine." And I'm like, "For real?" And he goes, "I think she likes me." Right?
She likes a lot of people.
She likes a lot of people. But
Okay, I'm gonna have to go with that because I can't remember.
okay, that's what happened. And he comes home and he says, I think she likes me, bro." I was like, and it turns out maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But Tony was that way with everybody. She was really, really, really open and very, very cool.
Let me
Once
insert.
she met Renee, then she met us, me, Anthony, Jazzy, and then she got to know us as a group. After Renee quit and we moved on, and then after we kind of just lost you two, after we had done the Puma thing, Tony started hiring us, me, Jazzy, and Anthony, to do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes, you did Swan Lake with them, right? You were one of the lockers in the Tony Swan Lake piece.
Yeah, that was me, Jazzy, Skeet, and Pete.
Right?
Yeah.
Pop and Pete.
And Papa Pete. And it was an honor to work with Tony that many times on that level. But when she was honored at Carnival, she literally presented that piece as her personal favorite piece of all time.
That's so
and
cool.
I just thought, wait a minute. This is Tony. She worked with Bet. She worked with David Bowie. She's original locker. She has done so much, and she picks this piece, and I'm in it as her favorite, her favorite of all time. That was very moving to me.
At the Ozone, the group that I first saw dance, that literally made me fall in love with dance, was Chain Reaction.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
These guys were so good. It was my first time ever at the Ozone. I was transitioning from roller skating, loving being at the, and then another. Yeah, it was Skateland USA, and then my friend said, "Hey, let's go to this club called the Ozone," and it was my first time there. They cleared the dance floor, and these dudes took over the nightclub. I was so impressed with them. They were tight. They were so good. And I remember saying to my friend Arturo at the time, I said, "I'm going to join that group." And I didn't even know how to dance when I said it. And so I started schlepping for them. I started driving them to photo shoots, to here, to there. And then my dad back then was one of the first people to have a home video camera. So I would end up filming them while they rehearsed, and then Pockets of Paul would come. We would get together, and he'd teach me some dance moves, and I was obsessed. I got to join this group. Now, after schlepping for them, I remember the day they said, "Hey, you can get your chain reaction jacket." They were basically telling me I can be in chain reaction, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So we have our first show at the Ozone. I
The
fucking
ozone.
I lock the brakes, you guys. I forget every fucking move,
No,
and then Tom
no.
just says, "Yes, it was horrible."
Bro, I was
And then
there. I watched.
right, and that's why I'm telling the story. And so Tom looks over at me and he sees I'm like dancing on hot coals or some shit, and he just looks at me and he goes solo. And I did the slide, the float
Back slide.
across this way. Then I did the moonwalk. I swear to God, you guys, I'm
Backslide.
not lying to you. I did the moonwalk to the emergency exit, which was right behind us, and and I and I and I and I fucking left the club, you guys. I left the club. I moonwalked out of the fucking club. I'm
You
like,
keep going in the
my
parking
life,
lot.
bro.
This
Yes. So
this is a
listen,
true story because I was there
it's
that night and watched him do it.
I
I
swear
have
to God,
to say,
all of it is true. I moonwalked out of the nightclub, completely like red faced. My life is over. I had at this point I had a 1972 Ford Pinto. Okay, and I get in the car. I roll up the windows. I lock the doors, and my girlfriend at the time, she's banging on the window, going, "It's not that bad. It's not that bad." And I go, "Get away from me!" I'm like, my life is over. Like my life
This is
is over.
all.
Terry, would you say it's fair to say that it was chain reaction that kind of at least got me into the love of dance? They affected you for sure, right?
100%. Now, here's the
Yeah.
thing. We don't have an alternate universe. So, because of who I am and how I think and what I like, I probably would have got into dance. I just would have gone in a different door. As soon as I would have seen breaking take off the way it did, I would have wanted to do it. But years earlier, stumble into a nightclub and I see Chain Reaction. Now, keep in mind, I didn't realize when I was watching Chain Reaction, I was watching Paul and Tom on this backstage in the club. And at that moment, I walked over and I sat down and I'm looking at it. I'm going, okay, this is guy type dance. I'm going to need to learn this. All of a sudden, Tom turns around and points at me. And I looked at him and I realized I know him from skateboarding. Him and Paul used to go to skater cross. So Tom
Yay.
comes walking over to me and he shakes my hand and I shake his hand and I go, "Hey, skater cross." And he goes, "Yeah, man." Right? So then all of a sudden, I remember the last time I saw him at skater cross. And so I asked him a question right there on the spot. And I said, "Hey, what is this?" And he goes, "This is called popping." They weren't locking right now. They were actually done with locking. They decided they weren't going to do locking anymore. I don't know why, but they were all about popping now. So I asked Tom, "What is this?" And he goes, "It's called popping." And I go, "Can you teach it?" And he goes, "No." He said, "You either learn it or you don't." Now, at the
Right.
time, I thought he was being an asshole, and here's why. He was telling the truth. The last time I saw him at Skatercross, he was on a small skateboard. I had my pool board with me because Skatercross was vertical. So I had my pool board. So I came in and I was waiting for my friend Wagner to show up and I skated in and he was with two girls and they were sitting on this bench and Tom was trying to do some tricks on the flat ground. So I'm waiting. About 3 minutes in, I said, "Hey, let me try your board." I didn't know him. I had just seen him a few times at the park. So he kicks his board over to me. Now at this point, I was pro. I was sponsored. I was skating freestyle for Pepsi, so I was pretty good. So I jump on his board and I start doing all these crazy tricks. And then Wagner comes skating in, and so I kicked the board back over to him. And I said, "Cool board," and I skated away. And as I skated away, I thought to myself, "Did I just front this dude in front of a couple of his girls? Why would I do that? What an asshole!" So fast forward. Fast forward like two and a half, 3 years, maybe 2.5 years. And all of a sudden I'm in the club and I'm watching him do this stuff. He turns around and he looks at me, and now it hits me. Oh shit, I know this dude. He walks over, and when he tells me no, he can't teach me, I thought I deserved that. I
Yeah.
absolutely deserved that. But then it turns out, as I started learning how to do it, he was 100% right. Back then, you really didn't teach it. It was taboo. It wasn't taught in studios. You either learned
Right.
it or you didn't. If somebody was kind enough to go, okay, look, with
Yeah.
locking, this is what you do. It's like trying to
Right.
teach somebody windmills. You can you can explain the positions, but you can't teach the momentum. You can't When I first learned how to windmills, I had to go to see the movie Flashdance 3 times. And
Right.
on my third time, right after the scene in the alleyway, which is the reason they call it all street dance, I ran out to the hallway and figured it out. That's how I had to learn how to do windmills. I
Yeah.
watched
Yeah.
Grenade do his first windmill at the Rhythm Lounge
Rhythm round.
like a day before me, and I still couldn't figure it out. So
Wow.
I went and saw the movie again, and I got it like 4 days later.
Wow.
The best stuff you can see on any film for chain reaction was Xanadu, the movie
Oh yeah.
Xanadu. Now
Correct.
I was cast in that movie. I was also a skater.
They had just finished doing Xanadu when I met them in the club.
I was
Wow.
cast in Xanadu, and this was back before anybody had telephones. So you had a call service when you auditioned for shows or television things or movies. You had a call company that you paid monthly. That if the choreographer called, you would call up and say, "Did anybody call me? Do I have anything on my? Is there any messages?" That's
Right.
all I had. I lived in a van on any street most of the time at Venice Beach. So I'm sitting in the parking lot at Penny's because that's where we parked, me and my friend who had this van. And we were both cast in Xanadu. And we missed the first day of rehearsal. And we called and said, hello. And we were talking to Kenny Ortega, who's the choreographer. We're saying, hi, Kenny. We were cast for your show. You've already started rehearsals. We're sorry we didn't get the message. And he goes, I'm sorry, we're cast now. But we were already, I would have been in Xanadu with chain reaction with my friends.
Right.
And
Right.
that's some of the best locking skates though involved that you can see them do. And the laughs that they really put out, because they didn't do much else except for the Super Bowl with Michael Jackson, the Super Bowl party thing that happened in LA at the Coliseum. But yeah,
And then Paul Sanchez was on the top of that. Paul Sanchez was pretty well known for being the kid who was popping on the top of the train in the Rod Stewart video.
And wasn't Sugar Pop a chain reactor? Sugar Pop came. He came from Donnell and them. Yeah.
Sugar Pop was he was friendly with them, but he was never part of chain reaction. He obviously ended up becoming one of the Boogaloos. But
Booyah Tribe. Booyah Tribe had them too because it was Donnell and Big D.
Yeah.
Sugar Pop. Yeah, the Booyah Tribe. Then they put out music.
Me and Jazzy ended up doing Hawaiian Tropic with Jeff Kutash. And that's where we brought in Sugar Pop to dance with us as well.
Right,
so that was cool.
I have to say that Los Angeles dance scene in the 80s was very incestuous, but I'm not talking about sexually. If you didn't know somebody, you knew somebody else. I mean, I was at an audition I think right after, well, it was a Kutash audition, and he told me he wasn't taking me to Germany, so I went to this other audition down the hall at W. Reynolds Studios, and Rerun, Fred Berry sitting outside, and I go, Fred, he knew me through Tony because we're all friends, and I go, Fred, if you walk in there and do the handshake with me, we'll both look good. You'll look good because you're doing it with me, and I'll look good because you're Fred Berry. And he said, we'll do it. So we go in there and we do the handshake together. I've got chills because I'm doing it with Rerun, okay?
Right.
And we finished, and I got the show, and he didn't. He never.
Oh, wow. That's
but
weird.
it wasn't the kind of show that he would. It was a singing. It's called Flashdance Fever. Let's face it.
Yeah.
They were marketing it after the movie Flashdance.
Sure.
And there was quite a few people that did it, but most of them were jazz dancers that pretended to be street dancers.
Right.
It was Raymond Del
Nice.
Barrio, Dory Sanchez, Kenny Ortega's assistant.
They
They
will
were
put in the work.
street dancers, and me, who was a street dancer. So basically, me and Fred did that audition together, and I'll always remember that. And his sister remembers it too. She still contacts me from time to time. His sister.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I haven't
sweet.
heard from her in a while, but yeah, when you lived in that era, you just knew everybody, especially if you were a working dancer. I mean, I would have been a Solid Gold, and Anita Mann said that the year that Cooley got cast for Solid Gold, Anita Mann says, "Flame, I love you. I love you. I can't use you." And I know exactly why. I had really bad teeth at the time, and these were a lot of close-up shots. I don't know why it took me like 30 more years or 20 more years to get my teeth done to where I could get a close-up. But at the time, it wasn't important. It wasn't important to me. I didn't think that I lost it because of that, but I did. I did.
Wow.
I wasn't commercially acceptable. And plus, a lot of times I was told, will you dye your hair blonde? And I'm like, but why? Why? There's blondes. You have blondes. You have 4 of them. Why would you want another one? Tony had me audition for the Coconuts, for Good Creole and the Coconuts. And they knew Coconuts. And Tony goes, you're auditioning. And so I did. And they said, you're going to, I should have said, I'll wear a blonde wig. But I didn't.
Do anything.
I said, no, I'm not dyeing my hair. And I didn't get it.
And
I was so stuck on being a stupid redhead. But there was always that thought that there's somebody in the audience that likes redheads, and you don't have one, so why not it be me? You know?
Tell them what they need, right? Tell them what they need to play.
Well, you had blonde in your hair, girl.
You know, if this was shot out of a shotgun, every single BB in that shell has hit something special.
Of course.
I'm not kidding you. When you listen to all these stories, and here's what, you know, this is a big planet, but a very, very small world, because we could go all day. We could be doing this all the way until midnight, and we'd still have stories that all culminate somehow or another and connect. It's like playing,
It's a web.
you know, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, because every single one of us has worked with every single one of us, whether we have or not. It's crazy.
Yeah, Janet and you guys used to come to the Palace when we did the Palace Dancers.
Remember?
You know, Janet would be up with Paula in the fly watching the Palace Dancers.
Yeah.
So it was all in the same time. I wish it could come
But
back.
early on, the LA City Rockers worked with Fred Berry on a NBC special, and we were so
Amazing.
excited. It was called National Poll, and it was a comedy, and they had the LA City Rockers with Fred Berry doing this whole thing, and it was awesome, right? So I didn't meet Fred Berry through Tony, but I would later meet the rest of the Lockers through different reasons. We met Shabadoo without knowing Tony, and then all of a sudden when I met Tony, then all of a sudden I was working with Greg, you know what I mean, Kemlark Jr., and then all of a sudden here's Skeet, here's Pete. I remember the first time I met Pete, I couldn't believe I was in his presence. He was so awesome. Because Chain Reaction aspired to be Popping Pete. That was the man.
He was the epitome. He was the epitome. And even
he's doing stuff, you guys. You see him online. He's somewhere every single day. He's like in different. He's doing it. Yeah, he's doing it.
And I used to love Robot Jane. Robot Jane was my. Nobody did what he did.
For a quick second, and Renee can elaborate on this. He mentioned earlier about, you know, he was basically in the film industry. There was a point where I was a little bit disappointed in Renee, and because he used to talk about all these awesome ideas about things he wanted to do. And when he got with Janet, he got so involved in her career. Now, it was great for Janet, but I felt like, but bro, what about you? What are you doing? When are we going to see these things that you talked about? Well, finally,
you lost a friend. Yeah, you lost a close friend.
And we almost lost a director, but he has since gone back into what he does, and he's directed. You know, he directed some stuff for Janet, but obviously that was almost not a no-brainer because he's very qualified. But he's later directed different videos and things. He's worked with the Backstreet Boys, I don't know, several times at this point. So he's done some really cool videos. He really has.
Right.
So
Renee, do you still do magic tricks with matches?
No, only when I feel the conversation is dipping.
Oh my God, that was my house. You were dipping with me.
Bust them
So
out.
no, he came over one time after club and he just did some magic tricks. And I always wondered why he did that. And I was like, oh, okay.
But
Nervous
do you know
tick.
what? Do you know what though? I do have to say this. Um, I think dancers are some of the most creative people on the planet. Like
I
think
agree.
of how many
I agree.
think of how many dancers moved on to direct, to choreograph, to do all kinds of things. And I've always told dancers, and I still do, that you're a director. You know what I mean? Like it's just to me when Terry and Jazzy and Anthony came on board, I would get to watch them essentially help Janet shape her entire presence.
Mhm.
You know, the truth is she look. I don't know what she would have done if we hadn't met, but I
No,
know
that,
she wouldn't.
yeah.
But I know she would not have done Rhythm Nation with cutting edge choreography.
Right.
You know,
It would have
like
been,
literally. Sorry.
I said, would have been something completely different,
Yeah,
well, it
and
wouldn't have
look,
been Rhythm Nation at all because that came out of Renee's mind.
right?
I just can't imagine that whole section of all those videos that y'all did. And I can't imagine them without you guys. Without
Yeah,
the
right.
it,
influence that was part of it. That was part of it.
There was, but let's be clear. Renee said it earlier. There was no better artist on this planet than Janet to pull this off because she was open to
Mhm,
the ideas to go
Right.
different directions. She wanted
mhm,
to be different, you know?
mhm.
And she honestly, I'm not kidding you. I've worked with a lot of people. By far, Janet is the most innovative and talented and open.
and very generous. Yeah, very
Yeah,
generous in terms of
that's a whole nother level right
in
there.
terms of letting people have their input. You know, I'll tell you one of the best compliments I ever felt was it was Janet, Michael, and I were together, and we were playing him on TV. We're playing him Rhythm Nation before it came out, and you could just see him biting his lips, and he goes, Janet, I wanted to do this. This is what I wanted to do. And I was like, right on, right on.
Can can I back up and tell a Tony Basil story real quick? It's
Please.
funny. Okay, so me, Jazzy, and Anthony. This is almost after the LA City Rockers, but we were still kind of doing gigs when they popped up. We were asked by Boogie to do a fashion show at a club in Marina
Oh,
Del
yeah,
Rey called Casanovas.
right.
That night, we went down for a rehearsal. We used to work fast, so the three of us went down. We did a rehearsal. While we were there, we did two numbers that night. Richie was the DJ. We did two
Yep.
numbers. We did a popping number and we did a locking number in between fashion stuff.
Yes.
So while we were there, now previously there's a guy named Sean who was from the group Body Mix.
Can I
Panda.
go in your house
Yeah,
to
Panda.
finish this? You know
He
what?
Yeah.
Can
he
I
and
go in
I
your house
actually
to
did a
finish it?
chair routine back at the Ozone.
Of
And
course you
then
can.
the next performance we did
No, you're
together,
not allowed in my house.
we did a stool routine. So we were just being funny. So
Yeah.
anyway, fast forward, we walk into this club Casanovas, and they had those perfect cane back chairs. And I looked
Yeah.
at them and I was like, I went to Boogie and I said, do you think the owner would let us take three chairs home? Let us
Yeah.
add some of this choreography and
Mm.
then come back. So we had like 2 days to get this thing together. So
Yeah.
they said yes. So I took the chairs, put them in my car. We drove home.
Mhm.
I came up with choreography for us to do as part of this whole locking thing we were going to do. So the night
Nice.
of the fashion show, Janet was there. Tony Basil was there. I had like
There.
3 ex-girlfriends who were there. It was like, there was a lot of people there. It was very successful. Anyway, right after we did the locking number, before we did our popping, Renee runs backstage. We were just getting ready to go into the dressing room to change clothes. Renee goes, bro, who did the chair thing? And I went, I did. And he goes, bro, don't ever do it again. Janet wants to use it in her next project.
Oh,
This
shit.
is 97. Okay. So from 97 to, actually it was probably, wasn't it late 96? It was late 96 because all through 97 into 98, before Rhythm Nation comes out, this is after Control. And so Janet's on kind of a hiatus.
Right.
Tony Basil hires me, Jazzy, and Anthony to perform with her like 5 times on television. And
Cool.
every time we'd get halfway through these rehearsals, we did Beat Street, we did Street Life, we did different
Right.
things. Every time we'd get halfway through rehearsal and she would say this to me, hey guys, because she was there that night. She goes, hey guys, what about doing the chairs? Now in my head, I'm like, oh, no, I can't give that to anybody. So I tell Tony,
she's
yeah,
smart.
let me see if I can find them. And then it would die. About the 3rd time she hired us, she said, hey guys, can we get the chairs going? And I was like, I've been looking and I can't seem to find it, but let me try. We get through that rehearsal and now the number's done and it hits her. And she literally goes, why do I even hire you guys? Blah, blah, blah. But she used like half of her choreography was ours that she used. So that's not a stab. That's a good choreographer. Use the talent in the room. So fast forward. Rhythm Nation comes out. I choreograph the chair routine. I teach it. They film it. We're good. They did a release party for the film short at Glam Slam in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, whatever. It was Beverly Hills. And that night, Tony came to the party. We actually, the Rhythm Nation dancers performed live that night from the video. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was all these booths with a walkway, then the dance floor, then a stage. And on the stage, they had brought in a screen and they were getting ready to air the film short. I'm standing, Janet, Renee, Terry, Jimmy, they're all sitting in this booth. And then Tony was standing in front of a booth down here. She was leaning against this pylon. I was leaning against the pylon over here. Here comes the film short. And all of a sudden, here comes Miss You Much. And then it says, is that the end? And it goes, no. And it goes into the chair routine. At this point, I'm looking at Tony, watching her watch the chair routine, knowing that she wanted to use the chairs. And I'm looking at her face, and she's looking at it. And she's looking at it. And it ends. And all of a sudden, she does one of these, I swear to God. She's sitting sideways, and she goes, and she looks right over at me and starts to walk toward me. So I don't want her to make a scene in front of Janet's table. So I run over to cut her off in front of the other booth. And I stop. I went like this. And she goes, all you had to do was tell me. And I said, Tony, if I had told you, you would have used it without me or with me, no matter what. If I had said, hey, I'm saving the chair routine for Janet, you would have found somebody else to do it, and then it wouldn't have been unique.
That's right.
So, but she was super, super, super cool about it.
Yeah.
Terry, also the handkerchief routine that you did for Janet in All Right.
Yeah.
That was badass too.
Thank you.
Yep.
My favorite is, once in a while, I'll be somewhere and I'll see the video pop up and I see me do the splits over the bench. By the way, Janet was supposed to be the one doing the split over the bench. She did it, and then she tried to do it again and she almost fell backwards. And Renee freaked out and said, no. The director runs over. No. Because they thought if she gets hurt, we're totally dead.
Yeah.
So Janet, Renee insisted that I do it. Because Janet was the one who was supposed to be in the middle of us.
It would make sense. Yeah.
So we literally had to restage right there on the fly. She landed on the top of the bench her second try, and her butt hit, and she fell backwards. And we caught her real fast. But then Renee was like, no, she's not doing that.
Right.
Wait, what about standing on the shoulders of giants, getting to work with Cap Calloway and the Nicholas brothers?
God, bro.
Damn, bro.
When you're in the heat of it, when you're in the heat of these things, you almost can't appreciate them. So it was one thing to run around and say, "Oh yeah, Cab Calloway's coming in." With that said, originally it was supposed to be Gene Kelly. Gene
Oh,
Kelly was originally supposed to be in it, and he backed out at the last second because he said he doesn't want people to see him as he is now. So he backed out, and Cab Calloway came in, and then we had the Nicholas brothers, Sid Charisse. I got to work. I got to work with Michael Kidd for like 6 days in a row up there at the lot. Just me and him getting up early in the morning and going and staging this whole thing out. That was
dang.
amazing. Michael Kidd, give me a break.
That
You know?
number is the reason why I'm dancing. The amount of people that you've inspired through that and continue to over the world, it's groundbreaking. But you know, the question that I really have for you guys is, when can we get a reunion? When can we get all of the LA Rockers together in a room, and then I can join the crew?
Um,
I want the
well,
jacket.
you might not like the
Ah.
initiation.
I never got a jacket.
I know.
I
I
want a
know.
jacket.
Did we? I don't even think we had
We
jackets.
didn't have jackets.
No.
Dude, we didn't have
We should
jackets.
get some. I have some.
I know, right? You
The
could make
reunion
jackets
tour.
now and just have them.
The reunion tour. We can
Yeah.
all still do
Okay.
it. I mean, I'm not doing a backspin. It is gross. Okay, with my.
Are you gonna do an aerial?
Huh?
Huh?
No, touching an aerial. You're great for
Oh,
aerials.
you know what? If I did it like Terry off the stage, yeah, I could still do that. I don't think I could do a standing aerial.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. The first time I've ever done a front flip like that, you saw me do it live. I just decided to do it right there on the spot.
Oh,
Let me
where
hear
you hit the light
something.
bulbs and the light bulbs came off the stage, remember? The
Yeah,
light bulbs came off the stage
yeah.
and
I
you
just
go,
decided to do it.
oh wow.
I'd never done that before.
No, I don't think I can do aerials standing straight unless I have a floor that jumps like a gymnast floor. But yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. I'll probably
I
tear
don't
my
know.
ACL again.
Yeah.
Terry, what about the butt? What about the butt drop at Voila?
Oh. There was
Tell
a
him.
there was a club. No, what was the name of the club? Was it Marbles or Chamois? Okay, there was a group. There was a group called the LA Breakers, and we were the LA City Rockers. And apparently, the LA Breakers had been talking shit about the LA City Rockers like they were better than us. But they were all breakers. They were pretty decent, but they didn't know how to pop or lock. So we heard all this crap, and then all of a sudden, I don't even know how it got set up, but we went to battle them at a club. On the floor, it was a huge plexiglass floor with big octagon shapes of plexiglass with lights coming through them. So they were like these big honeycomb sections. So we're battling, we're locking, we're killing these guys, right? All of a sudden, I jump up in the air, fingers forward, feet forward, and I come straight down into a butt drop, and I broke through the floor.
Shoot.
That
What?
that ended the night.
That-
All you can see is my hands and my feet, and the rest of me is down in here. I cut my hand, and you know
Oh
what's
no.
funny? We laughed it off, but the club tried to sue me.
Oh my
What?
God.
The club tried to sue me, so I sued them. And then like
Good.
3 years later, I got a check.
Good.
You know what I used to hate is you'd go to these clubs and you'd want to lock and you'd want to do it on the. And for girls, we didn't always wear knee pads because we didn't
Right.
always wear pants that were baggy that looked over our knees. Sometimes we'd
Right.
wear hot pants. Sometimes we'd
Right.
wear, skin tight pants. So when you actually got in the groove and some guy next to you is doing some funky knee drop thing and you want to just go down and up, the floors, especially in Vegas, marble.
Yeah.
Fucking marble floors. And there's nothing worse than doing a knee drop, hitting solid on your kneecap instead of on the back of your hips or your haunches.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna, no facial expression will change.
Yeah.
And you just get up
Yep.
and the next day you are in pain.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why do they make floors out of marble? So I used to start wearing knee pads no matter what. I remember breaking one time in Hollywood. No, here in Vegas at the brewery. I had a bullet belt on. Forgot that I had a bullet belt, full chrome bullet belt. All the bullets are in the belt.
I love that.
All kinds of gear, and I broke. I went and did a backspin. I had so many bruises on my hips the next day.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I just, you get in the moment and somebody's like coming up to you, especially if it's a girl. I don't care about guys
Yeah.
because I'm not a guy. But
Right.
if a girl's
Right.
trying to front and trying to get me like taking my airspace out, I'll do
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it takes to back her up. So I did it.
Right.
I did not a windmill, but I did the throw the leg around so that I can get some momentum. And boy, did I regret that I was wearing that bullet belt. It
You're
didn't
lucky
move
they
the
weren't real
skin.
bullets. Bang, 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 bang.
And I used to wear
I
that
thought
to the
you were gonna say they
airport.
were off.
They didn't ask me to take it off. This was back in the day. They didn't ask you to take your medal off. I mean,
Right.
I had so
Right.
much gear. It would take me a half an hour to take off my placards, my belts. I mean, I was full geared out. I don't know why, but that's what I was like. It clacked better when you're popping.
But if there's any one person that I owe the most, it's probably Renee. But at the same time, if I owe anybody for my dance, I'd have to thank all the lockers. I'd have to thank Tony. I'd have to thank all the boogaloos. I'd have to
Yep.
thank the twins for creating breaking. You know what I mean? All these things. The list would
Did
go
you
on
ever?
and
Did
on
you
and
ever
on.
like the Foot Lockers? Did you ever
Of
like?
course. Of
Okay,
course, they were awesome. But
they
I immediately go to the originals. You know what I mean?
right. No,
Because
of course.
because
They
without
were
the originals,
contemporary though.
we wouldn't have the footlockers.
Well,
So
Right.
let me just say one thing. Your regard for Renee showed when Renee left the group and we came in. You were at a loss because Renee really he missed you so much.
Yeah.
He really did. We felt it in the group. I mean,
yeah,
Bam Bam,
Yeah.
Anthony and Jazzy, they were friends. They were already me and Book, we were friends.
yeah,
And then
Yeah.
it was you and Renee. And when
yeah,
Renee was there, that was your other half. And then when
yeah.
Renee was gone, it was me, Book, Jazzy and Anthony and Terry.
Mhm.
And
Well,
I know
can
you
I
felt like
can
an
I
island.
tell
dude.
you? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Please.
No. That's what I'm saying. He really missed you. Feel
About
guilty.
that's so sweet. Honestly, I feel grateful for Terry. Terry was the one that kept our group together. Honestly,
Oh God, yes.
he was the one like
Yeah.
organizing everything, and so like I feel as grateful to have met Terry as which by the way, this is the opposite of what Boogie was hoping that we'd be bagging on each other. but
Yeah.
something happens when you get into your 60s. You start to really look back and think and appreciate all the things that happened.
Yeah.
Terry about 2 years ago sent me a text saying what he's saying now. Hey, I really wanted, I don't think I've ever fully told you how appreciative I am of how much you did for me and blah blah blah. And
Oh.
I picked up the phone immediately. I said, bro, please don't tell me you're dying. Because
Aw.
because we did, when you go back far enough, all we did was bag on each other. That's all we
Right.
used to do.
Right.
We got into this is how your true friends are. It's
Right.
like Terry and I have known each other for a long time. We could pick up the
Yeah.
phone, talk to each other. It's like we've never stopped. We meet on the golf course. Terry, AJ, and I, have
Yeah.
golfed more times than we can, remember. But when he said that, and I said, hey, bro, like honestly, we were all. I feel like we rode the wave that was going to happen with or without us, right? There was a swell. You guys have already mentioned it. Flashdance suddenly just blew things wide open. We just happened to be in the right place
Yeah.
at the right time,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so for me, retrospectively, I look back and I think, fuck, we were just literally in the right place at the right time. When
Right
I
in the
was
middle.
able, when I met Janet and we started working together, like I said, there was only one natural next move, and that is to bring the awesome talent of Terry, Anthony, Jazzy, and like literally, I look back and again, I'm not taking away from Janet. She would have been a superstar with or without us, but she
Mhm.
wouldn't have
But
done the same things she did
I,
without us. And I say that with, you know, with all due respect.
did you guys get that thing?
I still haven't seen anybody double time lock like you guys did with the original
Right.
choreography that you guys would do. I can't remember the song that we used in the video. I'm sure you'd remember it. The one that we used in the video that I posted, the long form and the short form,
Yeah.
but
ABC,
that
pounds,
song,
dollars, millionaire
yeah,
dollars.
that lent itself to double time locking. And I don't know how to explain it because I used to have these arguments with Steve, and he's like, well, I don't think you need to lock in that position, and I don't think you need to, you know. And but the thing is that I would defend it because I loved it. When I lock improv, when I improvisational lock, what do? I do the hand, you know, the side thing. I do the
Yeah.
points. I do
Yeah.
the stop and goes.
Mhm.
I do the
There-
base.
Oh, no,
The
whacking.
handshake. No, I never did that. You did. You did. I'll do the side clap with the freeze, or I'll point to this side. Give me 5. You know, but it still isn't the double time locking unless Terry says this is the choreography. Do this. You know what I'm saying? Then we're doing it as a group. I can do it, but in my brain, I was trained in the first way of doing it with the head turns. And that was a whole beat. It was a whole beat that way. It was a whole beat this way.
Yeah.
I
It
tried,
wasn't, you know,
Flame,
so
Well-
basically,
Flame, I tried the stop and goes a couple days ago, and I only hit the stop. I never got to the go part.
you're sounding like
Listen.
you're old and you're so much younger.
Hey,
Terry, can I ask, what are you doing now? Are you still dancing?
Well, yeah, I started my studio in 98. I sold it in 2016, but I'm still the director there. But in 2009, I also took over the Canyon High School dance team. But
oh,
then I left there and started doing Birmingham High School as well as Golden Valley. So I've got 2 high schools that I run. I don't run high schools. I run their dance program. And then
Okay.
I'm still a director at New World. So
What
I'm
a show
constantly
off.
doing, that
Stop
opens up.
showing off.
Now, listen, this opens up a window and we're going to talk about it. This is very important. It was depressing for me. I love seeing guys from the old school. I used to love running into Marvin and Patrick and all these guys,
Marvin.
you know,
He's here in Vegas.
TC and Crescendo and all these cats. But my problem was a lot of them were getting stuck in the old school. And anytime I would talk about some of the new dance styles that are coming out, they would be like, they had the attitude like, these kids don't know what dance is. And I'm like, how can you not see where this is going? So
I'm with you. I'm with
So,
you. I've
I know
always
you
been.
are. I know
Yeah.
you are, Flame. And the one thing I can say is every step of the way, I've tried to update and change with the times. Like, I don't lock very often or pop very often anymore. I spend more time choreographing more up-to-date hip-hop type stuff. Now, it has my style. What I don't like doing is commercial movement. So whatever you see on TikTok, I'm probably not going to do because that's not fun for me to copy somebody else's movement. I developed a style of my own hip hop many, many, many years ago, and I try to stay true to it. So it has it has the cleanliness of locking, it has the isolations of popping, but it ends up looking the way it does, which is a little different. It's not better than anybody else's. It's just different. So that I hold on to that, you know. But
Wonderful.
it was a little frustrated that all these very, very talented dancers wouldn't they didn't seem to want to move forward. I felt
But
like
they
they
were
were
like
kind of
a
getting
lot
stuck
of
in the
these,
past.
Terry, they were like that in their 30s. They didn't
Yeah.
want to move forward. They've been
Yeah.
stuck in they don't learn. It's like you grow old if you don't learn. I mean, I just
Right.
went to UNLV and took a class on drawing. I used to illustrate for my
Yeah.
costume. Haven't
Yeah.
done it in 25 years. I took drawing 1. I'm still learning. I'm learning. It makes your brain
Yeah.
fresh.
And I have to say that I am so blessed. Thank you very much for joining. I mean, I want to leave it with you guys, but before then, definitely before Boogie cuts out, please, if I can invite you guys to come back and bring anyone else and keep this conversation going because there's so much more that I really want to ask you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
Absolutely.
I
Listen,
want to invite y'all to come to Vegas. Come on. I'm in Vegas. Come on. There's things to do here.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Show
you gotta
together.
get Anthony in on one of these and talk to him, and because he's got a whole nother perspective. You got to get
And
Yeah.
Jazzy
Jazzy.
in.
Jazzy.
Jazzy
Jazzy.
ended up living in New York and teaching at Broadway Dance Center.
Yeah,
So
I
It's
think-
fucking
awesome.
great.
You know, we've all shotgun.
We're
This should
signing off.
segue into
Say-
the
say-
Backstreet Boys because AJ's the best dancer from that group.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Damn right.
Bye, guys.
And
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you.
And
Thank
soon,
you
and
so
Thank you.
much,
I love
guys.
you all.
and soon to be the best golfer in the group.
Awesome. Stu,
What'd
it's
you
an
say?
absolute pleasure, bro. Thanks for putting this together,
Thanks,
buddy.
Stu.
Terry, Boogie,
Anytime.
Renee, Flame, thank you so very much. And anyone who's watching this afterwards, please leave any comments for the guys. And like next time
girls.
we will continue this conversation. So
Yeah.
I have to say thank you and good night.
All
Much
love,
love, you
all
guys.
love.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
I love all